ends off on a point that we are picking up here in studio, especially when it comes to matching the certificate with where the young people can go to. But at the same time, there are some anxieties about the future when they finish tertiary education. Every day, we see social media posts of graduates seeking employment or some writing boards standing on the side of the road hoping to get spotted. With youth unemployment figures well above 60%, how hopeful are we as a nation that the young people who just finished Matric and are getting ready to further their studies don't end up with their qualifications gathering dust? Let's speak to an organization that's trying to change this scenario and speak to the South African Council for Graduates Director, Thamsanqa Maqubela. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Over 800,000 graduates unemployed. How do you then, as an organization, come in to try and change this picture?
Thank you, Bangueth. Thank you to the SABC for continuing to be the light in terms of this dark cloud that is over South Africa. It is actually the highest pandemic, the youth unemployment issue in South Africa. The Matric or grade 12 for national certificate results, be it coming from the public sector or even those who received yesterday from the Independent Education Board, they mean very, very little. Why do they mean very little? Because parents, the educators themselves, the lecturers, they are operating on the mindset of the 20th century. We need to change that. These results cannot mean much simply because our education system is meant to just help young people to learn to write and to read. Is that enough in the 21st century? Certainly not. What do we need? South African Council for Graduates has put up a life after matric program so that these young people can begin with their educators together with the various officials in several departments of education, can focus on what are the needs of the industry, what are the needs of the economy. We cannot, in the 21st century, prepare young people for employment. There are no jobs. Companies are retrenching. So how on earth do we believe that when preparing young people just for employment is going to assist? So give them 5 different options.
Yeah. And Mr. Maqubela, just if you can allow me to come in there, pardon me, I mean, what you're saying is very critical because a lot of them are hoping that companies are going to absorb them and then they are told about work experience, which a lot of them seem to not have. Are you then also encouraging them through this program to also be entrepreneurial?
Certainly, yes, but we encourage them to start working as early as they are in school. They must do their vacation jobs. They must also be able to do weekend jobs. They must start their own businesses while studying. And much more importantly, they need to engage with professionals in fields that they're interested in. They should also be able to go a step further and investigate what career options are available. That is what the Salgrass LAMP program does. We bring in professionals in both the career and the vocational space to come and spend 2 to 3 days with these young people to help them to make informed subject choices, because it also starts there. If you cannot make informed subject choices, it's going to affect you in the future. But also about the quality of studying and the ability of our young people to exert themselves to prepare for the future they want, not the future that their parents or their teachers hope for.
And when you then listen to what you said in the beginning, that they're not being trained for purpose for this time that they are finding themselves in, how difficult is it then to match them with the companies that would then be coming in to speak to them or even try to take them in and do some of this vocation work? Because if they're not being trained for the time that we are in, that also is a disadvantage, isn't it?
It is a complete disadvantage, but also it is a failure of the education system in both the private sector as well as the public sector. People are just making money out of these young people. What is it that we need to prepare them for the future is to really live in the present situation and ensure that we investigate the careers of the future. South Africa is not doing very well when it comes to world skills competition. That talks to that problem to say, we are not a producing economy. We are not an exporting economy. Actually, we produce raw materials instead of value adding the raw materials, massive raw materials that we have. we should add value to them. And we've got the best of the advantages, but the letdown, of course, it is our education system. It continues also at the university level, where we teach young people to work for money. We were never created to work for money, but to make money work for us. And we believe that giving young people options, work options, employment options, entrepreneurial options, business options, and investment options. Not everyone should be an employee. There are people who should be able to become investors or professional investors so that they have what it takes to make money grow and work for them. And then they can establish and exploit more assets to grow our economy.
And we're almost out of time. In about 10 seconds, in your view then, given where we are now, how long before we get to that point that you're describing?
South Africa needs to accelerate the work of workplace training. We've been doing it, but in bits and pieces, so we need to increase the duration of our internships from 12 months to 2 to 3 years, and I'm appealing to all the sitters, and also grateful to sitters like Bank Sitter, Mary Sitter, Cat Sitter, as well as ETDP Sitter, FPNM Sitter, and Mix Sitter, who've been investing in the money and funds for South African Council for Graduates to take young people into the workplace so they can spend 2 to 3 years of internships. And therefore, we believe that when we do that, it would help us to take about 20 to 30 years. It is not a short-term program. It is indeed, as I've said, 20 to 30 years for South Africa to become competitive and get young people to work for a purpose.
Yeah, especially if we're still even struggling to track young people that are going to TVET colleges from grade 9. Just that alone is telling us where the gaps are. But thank you so much for your time. And certainly one hopes that this can really be heeded in order to be able to then create young people who are fit for purpose, especially when it comes to their qualifications. That was the South African Council for Graduates Director, Thamsanqa Maqubela.